Well, the question was aimed at what the little prince learns from each individual planet. It is not so much the planet itself that is of importance, but the individual represented on each planet. Collectively, the idea of the planets themselves may symbolize isolation and separation from others.
It is a violation of etiquette to yawn in a king's presence. I forbid you to do so.
I can't help it. I've made a long journey and I haven't had any sleep.
Then I command you to yawn. I haven't seen anyone yawn for years. Come on, yawn again. It is an order.
That intimidates me. I can't do it now.
Well. Then I command you to yawn sometimes, and sometimes too. I command you to sit down.
The king, who has such a huge ego, claims he rules the universe, although he has no subjects, even on his homeworld. He is obsessed with the pointless pursuit of power that can bring him no joy. The lesson provided by this character is that if a person is too bossy and vindictive, said person will push others away due to their poor behavior.
A visit from an admirer. To admire means to acknowledge that I am the handsomest, the best dressed, the richest, and the most intelligent man on the planet.
The vain man. This deals with narcissism and self-absorption, which shows the little prince the difficulties of having relationships that are honest and healthy when one is arrogant and narcissistic. It also shows that when one is selective in hearing and hears only what they want, they will not always hear what they need.
To forget that I'm ashamed of drinking.
The tipler, an alcoholic, reveals a pitiable character who drinks to forget his shame, and who feels shame because he drinks. This tipler represents not just the futility of addiction, but also the human tendency to solve problems by making them worse.
Of course. When you find a diamond that belongs to nobody in particular, then it's yours. When you find an island that belongs to nobody in particular, it's yours. When you're the first person to have an idea, you patent it and it's yours. Now I own the stars, since no one before me ever thought of owning them.
The businessman, who's very self-important and busy in the work of counting the stars. The little prince notes that the businessman's thinking is just as illogical and circuitous as that of the tipler. This businessman is focused on counting and owning things and putting them in an imaginary bank. He represents how useless it really is when people focus on amassing wealth instead of being happy.
To put out my street lamp. Good evening. There's nothing to understand. Orders are orders. Good morning.
The lamplighter, who spends every moment of his life lighting the lamp, then extinguishing it, then lighting it again, and so on and so on. He does this so often because a day only lasts for about a minute on his planet. So he's lighting up the nighttime and extinguishing the light before the daytime. He's really exhausted, but won't stop doing this meaningless work. And because of this, the lamplighter probably represents the futility and exhaustion brought on by a foolish devotion to habits or to work that is ultimately unimportant. The geographer. This puzzling character calls himself a geographer, but actually hasn't created any maps because he's just sitting around waiting for someone else to do the work of exploring so that he can know what to put onto his maps. He's obsessed with the distinction between an explorer and a geographer. So this man probably represents the futility of clinging to rules or definitions that have no practical importance. Also, he teaches the little prince the meaning of the word ephemeral, causing the little prince to miss his rose, who he fears is in danger of speedy disappearance.
It means which is threatened by imminent disappearance.
Is my flower threatened by imminent disappearance?
Of course.
My flower is ephemeral, and she has only 4 thorns with which to defend herself against the world. And I've left her all alone where I live.
When the little prince can no longer put up with the difficult and temperamental rose he loves, he goes exploring, hoping to find wisdom on other worlds. In general, what he encounters is foolishness. Particularly, he finds many examples of the self-absorption of adult life, in which the single inhabitant of a world is only concerned with himself and his own self-aggrandizement. The little prince represents innocence, ignorance, purity, and stupidity. When I first read this book, I was very young, around 10 or 11, and I hated it because I couldn't understand, and the story didn't make any sense at the time. Now, as I am one of the grown-ups, I now see my foolish stupidity through this book. Although the book is only about 80 pages long, the values it shares are small masterpieces for everyone. Indeed, it teaches children to be more mature, and at the same time, it teaches adults to be better people.